Hello, ladies. Thank you very much for joining me today in this live webinar on understanding and treating hair loss for women. Of course, men and women can lose their hair or have hair thinning for different reasons. Today, we're just going to focus on the causes of hair loss for women, which can include nutritional, hormonal, and of course, other causes such as just stress and poor digestion. But particularly, we're going to focus on covering hormonal causes and nutritional. But first, we need to diagnose what is your major cause. This is the process that I go through when I have a patient who comes to me when their focus of the treatment is hair loss. And I'm doing this because over the years of doing appointments with women, I've come to learn it's very, very important for women to not lose their hair. Of course, men don't seem to care, and often it's hereditary, so they accept it. But women, on the other hand, I've had clients who have high blood pressure, diabetes, kidney failure, and don't even want to focus on that. They want me to focus on hair loss. Even though they have these serious life-threatening health conditions, I guess they don't want to pass away with no hair. So that's a big focus for women, and I can understand that. It's very important to them. So that's what this webinar is for the women who are very concerned about their hair. So once again, we have to start with just diagnosing and understanding what could be the cause of your hair loss, which is, of course, the approach I have to take when I have a patient. I have to first determine what is the cause. Now, I have a big advantage. I have my new patients complete a health intake form, so I can see all of their diet, all their medication they're taking, and all the supplements they're taking. So this can give me a lot of information right there. And I can see information about the state of their digestion. So we have to look at what is causing the hair loss and a few areas which we're not going to cover today because they're quite broad, but a lot of medications can lead to hair thinning and hair loss. And that you really have to look up each medication individually and see if this is a common side effect. And of course, a stress, takes a lot away from the body and can contribute to hair loss. And also poor digestion, a lot of gas, bloating, constipation, not much hunger, not much appetite, never feeling good after meals are all the signs of poor digestion. And when there's poor digestion, there's usually poor nutritional intake or malabsorption, and this can eventually lead to hair loss slowly. But it is a main cause. That's why improving digestion will help almost all health conditions, because when digestion is poor, once again, symptoms like gas, bloating, constipation, chronic acidity, and even no appetite, lack of appetite is a sign of poor digestion, then you're going to have many health problems, including just hair loss. Now, let's look at the most common in that, which we're going to talk about here, and that's nutritional. And I'm sure if you go online and you type what kind of supplements you can have for your hair loss, and again, we talk about supplements as supplementing with nutritional supplements like vitamins, minerals, trace minerals, amino acids, and maybe we could go as far as probiotics. These would all be under the category of supplements. Herbal remedies are not supplemental. They're treating a condition. Even though they all have vitamins and minerals in them, they're not considered supplements, even though that's the way they're classified in our society as supplements. But they're not supplementing your nutritional state, at least not directly. I mean, indirectly, we have discovered many herbs are very high in certain nutrients, and that's probably just kind of evidence of why they work. But we're separating nutritional deficiencies in separate from hormonal treatments, which we'll talk about. I mean, herbal treatments. We'll talk about herbal treatments as well that are available. Certain herbs are well known to help in hair growth. But let's talk about first, and then of course the big wild card, which is hormonal. Well, maybe I'll change my mind. Let's do hormones first because that's the way I approach with my patients. So usually, of course, I have information about the patient's um, state of their hormones to some degree. Often they provide me with the blood work, and that also often can really help me when I see testosterone and estradiol and different hormonal levels. But if I don't have that, then I can question, and particularly if the woman is still having her menstrual cycle, from the signs and symptoms from the menstrual cycle, we can so to speak, reverse engineer and understand what hormonal imbalances she has. So if you're the main clue though is these particularly for a menstruating woman, these symptoms. So a lot of fatigue, anemia, tiredness. This is, not a good sign, and usually means is evident of heavy bleeding, heavy menstrual bleeding, and ultimately anemia and iron deficiency and other deficiencies as well. Because when a woman loses all this blood, their body needs to remake it, and so there's a kind of a deficiency taking place, but particularly of iron, and we know iron is needed for hair loss. So a woman having heavy menstrual cycles, um, and heavy and long duration, or even just a lot of spotting and loss of blood, basically more than normal, then she can end up with mineral deficiencies, particularly iron, and this can be the cause. So I always look at that first. But even if there's other signs and symptoms of hormonal imbalance, just cramping, mood swings, tenderness of the breast, and other symptoms. And this also can indicate hormonal imbalance. Now, diagnosing hormonal imbalances from signs and symptoms prior to menstruation is a skill set on its own, which I have spoke on before. But whenever we're having a woman who's concerned about her hair, and I can see just signs and symptoms of, you know, abnormal PMS, and that can be more than just excess bleeding, but just the cramps, the mood swings, and etc. But particularly the heavy bleeding, then I will always treat that as well as maybe provide treatment for the hair growth, because it sure doesn't hurt to help a woman to balance her hormones and reduce down these premenstrual symptoms. And the same goes for the postmenopausal woman, where we know estrogen is dropping, and we can see other signs of weight gain, vaginal dryness, low libido. Also, some of these are indicative of hormonal imbalances as well. So if we see these in hot flashes, then we might as well just treat the hormonal imbalance. It's only the case where there's very few symptoms of menopause, or they're way past menopause, or a woman's having menstrual cycle, and there's not a lot of symptoms, where I would eliminate that. But I would say in most cases, for a woman that comes to me with hair loss or hair thinning, because most women don't wait around for their hair to be gone. They just start thinning, and already they want to take action. And I'll always treat the hormones at that point. And there are many products that, help in this regard. And I'll mention a few. But I think the most important thing for a woman to understand is that these hormonal imbalances, particularly heavy menstrual bleeding, can be a major cause of hair loss. And the other one is nutritional. And women, of course, I think are faced with this often more than men due to dieting. So I've got many types of women who were on, let's just say, extreme diets. I used to get a lot of women, and still do, who are on the vegan diet. Of course, that's not as popular as it once was. And hair loss, stopping of the menstrual cycle was one cause of this type of extreme diet, no proteins, often no fats, no animal protein. And a lot of times they were just living off of smoothies. I called them smoothie girls and coffee, smoothies, and coffee to kind of keep going, which would definitely keep them pretty thin, which is, I think, the objective for some women. But unfortunately, hair loss was one of the signs and symptoms that I saw in people following that diet. Now, because of nutrition is probably the most number one reason for hair loss, and I'd say for a lot of women, it's probably hormonal plus nutritional. That's why they're not able to resolve it on their own by just taking, selenium and zinc and more omega 3s and etc. Because it's also hormonal and you have to treat both. But when you don't have much animal protein, for example, you're not going to get the vitamin D. I mean, you can get it out of some mushrooms and, of course, vitamin D's in eggs, which is one reason I try to talk vegans into at least doing some eggs and cheese and just become a vegetarian instead of a vegan. So at least you get eggs and cheese and then more mushrooms and more sunlight and maybe vitamin D supplements because we definitely don't want to have a vitamin D deficiency. But cod liver oil, for example, has vitamin D, vitamin A, and vitamin E. And we also know vitamin E, again, in butter, some nuts, particularly almonds, sunflower oil, which is one of my one of the oils that I do encourage in cases like hair, high cholesterol. Doesn't have the omega 3s, but it is high in vitamin E, which is good for your hair. So, and then you get people who are doing other extreme diets, which I think are also very unhealthy, just in the other direction, such as the keto diet and the paleo diet, where we're eating a lot of animal protein and fats and very, like, say, no fruit and no grains. Well, these people also, besides getting fatty liver, high cholesterol, gallstones, and ultimately kidney failure or gout from the high uric acid. So this is a very dangerous diet, too. Unfortunately, still popular, but it won't last long like all the fads. They do go in time. But these people, they're not getting much vitamin C because it's coming mostly from fruits and vegetables, oranges and kiwi, all these fruits that you should be eating every day. Some fruits, it's a very important food category to have some fruits. And a lot of people are anti fruit now um, because, I don't know, it's a fad to not have fruit. Um, and pretty soon it'll be a fad probably not to have vegetables. Um, and these people also end up with sometimes low immunity and low vitamin C, and this can contribute to hair loss. But another category of nutritional deficiency, mostly caused by these dieting and extreme diets, is well, they call it no carbs, but that's really not the proper term because, even fruit and grain, has carbohydrates in it. What they really mean is no grains. So a lot of people are doing no grains because they want to lose weight or gain muscle, or they've been watching social media too much. And then they stop the grains. And of course, the B vitamins, even the biotin, which is very famous for helping your hair. They often put it in shampoos for hair loss. Well, that's a B vitamin. B12, which is also helpful for hair growth, and B12 deficiency can lead to hair growth. And of course, B12 is mostly only an animal protein, but all the other B complexes are all in grains. And of course, if you want to do like beef liver or something like that. But again, cheese does have, particularly hard cheeses, and egg yolks also are high in B complex. So you can see, if you're not doing grains, plus you're not doing, eggs, you're going to have like vitamin B deficiency, and the vitamin B vitamins are mostly fats, water soluble. So they only last so many hours in the body, which is one reason people eat grains 2 or 3 times a day, is because these vitamins B that we get mostly from grains don't last very long. And they're very also good for the nervous system and a lot of people with neurological problems have vitamin B deficiency too. And of course, magnesium. Most people think that chocolate is a good source of magnesium. I would beg to differ. Chocolate's inflammatory. The coffee bean, it's usually got some sugar. Consuming sugar not only can, strain your pancreas, lead to insulin resistance and diabetes and overstimulation in some cases, but it's also depleting you further in nutrients. So you could be eating all these foods, but because you're having a lot of sugar, cookies, candy, chocolate with sugar, etc., ice cream, then this can further lead to deficiencies. So, uh, basically, you don't want to be on an extreme diet. If you want to grow your hair, you're going to need a little bit more protein, and then you're having now eggs are a good choice because they have selenium in it, and we know selenium's helping also with hair growth. um, and you're going to get your vitamin D, which is important. Then you can have your grains for your B complex. You can have your fruits for your vitamin C, and again, iron. You're going to do well getting it from some beans, but animal protein again. So, you know, too extreme, too limiting, trying to lose weight, skipping meals, living off of coffee, living off of smoothies. This is one cause I can see for weight loss. And these smoothies are often undigestible. People put so many things in the smoothies, cold frozen berries plus kale and manuka honey, goji berries. Now they're dumping in mushrooms. And so, they become a big glob and it's often undigestible, even though you've put in all these healthy substances in the smoothie. Often the body's not able to digest it, and the people end up with nutritional deficiencies. And while we're on the subject of nutritional supplementation, then we should always repeat, and I've spoke on this many times, many webinars, many podcasts. I've talked about the subject of not having synthetic vitamins and using food-based vitamins, particularly vitamin D3, to get a plant-based supplement. And because many of these cheap nutritional supplements, they don't absorb well. They're in hard condensed pills, that don't really break up. And a lot of times people are urinating out a lot of these vitamins because they're basically isolated synthetic nutrients that are anything but organic and natural. And sometimes they don't even absorb well, or sometimes they don't even live up to their objective. So you should always get food based and plant based nutritional supplements. So if you're concerned about hair loss, I definitely advise you to eat a more broad diet, fruits in between the meals, a broad spectrum of vegetables, some animal protein, at least eggs, and some cheese, because there's really no vegans in the world but Southern California. The vegetarians in the world, like Southern India and even Pakistan, I mean, they're going to have cheese and dairy and milk, which should be a second source of protein and vitamin D to avoid nutritional deficiencies. So avoid the extreme diet, eat a little bit more broad, and then buy some food-based supplements, particularly the D, zinc, iron if you're a woman and becoming anemic with heavy bleeding, B complex, these, a little magnesium at night. All these can benefit everybody. And then at the same time, treat the hormonal imbalance. Now, that's a tricky subject, but we have some products here from our sponsor, Herman Teas. There we are. There's their man with the same shirt on that he had when they took the photo to make the cup, the red shirt and the leather vest. So, Hermantes does have a few products that can help us both in hormonal balance and in um, hair loss. So, let's take a look here. This is our female hormonal balance um, tea, and you can see that nice name, female hormonal balance tea. And we can break this down. This can really benefit all women. Um, of course, if you're having hot flashes, we have a hot flash tea, and if you're having, heavy, a lot of premenstrual symptoms, we have a PMS tea as well that can be taken right before, menstruation. But, usually this tea, say you have a lot of PMS symptoms, then I'll say take the PMS tea, or we also call it moon cycle tea, about 5 days before menstruation, and the rest of the month, just take this female balance tea. So I usually have this female hormonal balance in conjunction with another product. Like if I have a woman with uterine fibroids, I'll give her the fibroid tea, and then a uterine fibroid tea plus this, female, uh hormonal balance tea, which works slowly. Now, of course, women get too much facial hair, or and you can get a little facial hair or balding, or particularly the textbook sign of high testosterone is hair growth on the nipples, and that means high testosterone. So that definitely can be a cause of hair loss for women. And of course, after menstruation, after menopause, you can get a lot of menopausal symptoms indicating low estrogen. So this can help for not, but like I said, usually I'll do it in conjunction with another product like a hot flash tea or a PMS tea or a fibroid tea. Well, let's take a look here. So spearmint is known to, let's just say, modulate testosterone. People ask me why is spearmint in there, and it's actually the first ingredient because it's not very strong. So, and it tastes very good. Now, red clover is a known phytoestrogen. Shatavari is one of the key Indian herbs for hormonal balance, particularly postmenopausal. And here's ashwagandha. Ashwagandha is just for your adrenals, but of course, if you have high cortisol and you're stressing out, then this can have an adverse effect on your hormone production. So that's why it helps basically a little bit with the adrenals too, because we know ashwagandha helps with the adrenals. And then the Dong Quai, this is a premier herb for estrogen imbalance, and black cohosh. This is also like a phytoprogesterone, helping with progesterone. And fennel and licorice just kind of tie it all in together. And I will tell you a little secret about this formula. There's dominia in there, and dominia is a female aphrodisiac. It can be used for men too, but it's not that strong. And it's off. I use it in my sexy woman tea, and of course, that's there because one symptom women feel often is low libido. So I put a little bit of Dominia in there as well. And so it's slow acting. Like women have to drink this for a few months, and then they go get their blood tested again, and then they'll see the results. And again, usually I'm using this in conjunction with other um, treatments that the patient's doing. Now, if we just go look, and I have other products, but we're not going to get into that. The main thing you have to determine is this hormonal or not? But like I said, most clients, I usually tell them to get some vitamins, some nutrients, give them a tea to help with the hormonal symptoms, and then I give them these two products here, healthy hair. And here we can learn a lot too. These are very nutritional products. We have some hair oils and some hair creams, but they're not for sale on Urban Tea, so I'm not really covering them. Horsetail is one of the most famous herbs to help with hair growth, and we now know it has high in selenium. That's how you can see sometimes herbal remedies, which have been used for a long time for something, once they're studied, we learned that, oh, they had selenium in it, or they had a nutrient in it that's known to help hair. And that's definitely the case with horsetail. Stinging nettle, of course, is a real powerhouse of nutrients, and maybe one of the most nutritious um, Western herbs there is. So here you're also, but it's also been helpful for hair growth. And you can see again, all the vitamins are in this formula. There's a lot of nutrients, collagen, selenium, and B vitamins are all just in that horsetail and nettle. And oat straw also very good for the nervous system, good it's got B vitamins. Or usually herbalists don't talk about herbs from a nutritional point of view. If somebody's talking about an herb and they're saying, "Oh, it's got this vitamin," they're not really an herbalist, because it's not the way we look at these herbs by their nutritional content. That's not a real herbalist. But I'm mentioning it in this case because we know that nutritional deficiencies are a major cause of hair loss. And it just so happens some of these herbs like horsetail, stinging nettle, and oat straw are highly nutritious herbs. And then Brahmi is good for the hair. It's also calming, but it's also good for the hair, good for the skin. And hibiscus, of course, is super high in vitamin C. So you can see this is a very nutritional um, formula. It even says in there at top high in selenium, iron, and calcium. Yeah, the horsetail is high in calcium. We also use it for bone development. So that's why it says this will help with your hair, your bones, and your fingernails should get harder. You can tell one sign you're not getting enough of the nutrients that grow hair by just looking at your fingernails, by the way. If if they're brittle, and breaking easy, then that's not a good sign. If they're splitting, that's not a good sign. If they have deep ridges, that's also not a good sign. So if you have your fingernails are weak and brittle, then more than likely you're deficient in the minerals that are necessary to form your fingernails are the same minerals needed to grow your hair. And this is the Ayurvedic analogy. And often your fingernails, if you look at them, they look like bones. They're kind of like soft bones. So a lot of the nutrients that build your bones, like calcium, uh, also are helping to grow your hair and your fingernails. Now, the reason the rosemary and fenugreek are in there, particularly the rosemary, that's for the circulation to get the blood up to the head. And I didn't mention that, but even poor circulation can be one cause of hair loss to some degree. And just like most health conditions that I treat on a daily basis, there's usually multiple causes. So it wouldn't be surprising if person has hormonal imbalances, nutritional deficiencies, and poor circulation. You can always tell if you have poor circulation, your hands and feet are much colder than the rest of your body. So the blood's not getting to your extremities, and it's not obviously getting up to your head well either because your head is above your heart. So when there's poor circulation to the head, you can feel lightheaded, you could feel dizzy, and you need to lie down. So the blood needs to get up there. And fenugreek also is helping in this regard, stimulating the scalp. So this is again a nice product. We get good reviews off of it. And then the Indian version here, I would think is more potent than the tea, and you may not recognize these as much, but you can see hair and nail formula. So it's for hair loss, thinning, balding, and like I said, most of the time I just give both of these out. I tell them take a couple teaspoons of this um, hair and nail formula in milk, because we know milk's got the fat which we needed. Because I also didn't make it clear that low fat diet can lead to hair loss. So we got whole milk in here, plus the vitamin D, plus the fat and all the other nutrients that come with milk. Milk is extremely nutritious. And then you take these herbs with it. And some of these herbs we know are also high in certain nutrients, like amlaki. The amlaki fruit has been recorded as the most um, highest fruit or vegetable in vitamin C in the planet. And that's in there. There's the Brahmi again, the Gotakola is for the circulation. There's the ashwagandha. And ashwagandha is a building herb. It's a growth herb. So we don't give out ashwagandha for weight loss. We give ashwagandha when we want to, not just manage cortisol, but build and strengthen. And pravo panchment, these are calcium, natural calcium sources from the ocean, like coral and seashell and oyster shell and pearls, all ground up in a little powder, and that's put in there. And that's like, it's a natural source of calcium, coral. But we don't call it coral because it's been treated to make it more digestible. But you can see online people do sell coral powder for natural sources of calcium. But in this case, this is a few other coral plus pearl plus some other shells, and then they're cooked so they're easily digested and absorbed, but very high in natural sources of calcium and minerals, which they've known about for a long time. And the two most common herbs for hair growth is a bringraj. And again, you can buy bringraj oil. If you buy Ayurvedic hair oil, which you can find online, you will see the main ingredient should be bringraj and amlaki in sesame oil. We always use sesame oil, and sesame oil should be the best oil for helping you to grow your hair and your bones. So, women in postmenopausal state who are having bone loss plus hair loss, we tell them just cook everything in sesame oil. And even you can massage sesame oil on your scalp. And these oils, that Indian oil for hair loss, is usually, if you look at the ingredients, it's sesame oil, not coconut oil, sesame oil, because you don't want it's too cooling, and bringraj and amlaki oil mixed together. So just bring Raj in sesame oil is a known um, hair oil. And then usually they put other herbs in it like amlaki, brahmi, gotakola. So some of these herbs that you see here are also herbs that are used in oils for hair loss. So if I could just conclude, I think you got the point that, you know, hormones can definitely be a big factor. Nutrition is almost always a present. And to have good nutrition, not only should you take nutritional supplements, but you should improve your digestion, because if your digestion's poor, you're going to have malabsorption and can lead to nutritional problems as well. The only other few tips I'd like to give you is a few home remedies for hair loss. One is just sesame oil in the head. Get rid of whatever shampoos you have, because a lot of shampoos, even ones that say, oh, they got biotin in it, when you see them try to list everything that's possibly good for your hair in one shampoo, that's not a good thing. You should get really uh, uh, very gentle and herbal shampoos. There are Ayurvedic herbal shampoos you can get online, and conditioners, and overwashing your hair, over drying your hair, just like with your skin. If you overwash it, it can get too dry and too depleted. So in Ayurveda, in fact, they do it the opposite of we do. We put on the shampoo and then we put on the conditioner. But in Ayurveda, and the way I do it, I have this hair oil. So I put the hair oil on first, and it's kind of just oily and sticky. And then after I wash my body, then I get this Ayurvedic herbal shampoo, which I get online, and and then I wash it out, and then it never gets dry because you kind of treating it with the oil first, so there's no dryness, and then you're kind of washing the oil out with the shampoo. And you should never use strong shampoos that have a lot of bubbles. The more bubbles they have, usually the stronger they have, and the more they're drawing out of your uh, hair and your scalp. Another factor can be just hard water. Hard water can be very drying to the skin, can also lead to hair loss. And this is why, of course, many people put in water softeners in their home. And another cause is heat. Hot water on your head is never advised in Ayurveda. So that's why when you do like panchakarma and do the sveda, it's called the steam box. Your head is always sticking out. So they steam the rest of the body, but they never steam the head. So in Ayurveda, we don't do saunas where the head could get hot. And because it's not healthy for the brain to be hot, it's not healthy for the eyes to get hot, and it's not healthy for the hair to get hot. Now, I know that hot water feels good on your back, but when you're washing your hair and you're letting that water hit on your head, turn the shower down a little bit so it's warm. Hot water on the head can create hair loss. And again, if you've got hard water, not soft water, which you can test yourself, then hard water can be very drying. And if you have really dry, flaky skin that doesn't seem to go away, no matter how much omega-3s and oil and ghee that you have, then it could be your water. which will also dry out your scalp. So, overwashing your hair, using cheap shampoos, even ones that say they're for hair loss, can be one of the big causes, and your water itself. So it's a really has to be a holistic treatment. I know everybody would like to just go out and buy one little pill or buy a little selenium or something, and their hair loss is going to go away. But it's better to be holistic, work on your hormones, work on your diet, take some vitamin supplements, and then take some herbal products like we have available here on herbmanteas.com, where you can buy hair oil, hair tea, and hair formula. And soon we'll put the hair oil up there as well. Um, and this broad approach tends to work. So when the women come back and say, hey, their hair stopped falling out in their comb, it's not clogging up the drain, and it's definitely getting better. Often we don't know what improved it, because that's always my approach, this holistic approach. Change the diet, throw in some nutritional supplements for them, and give them these home remedies, not using the hot water, and changing the shampoos, and taking these herbal remedies. Now, I do get reviews from people buying these herbal remedies online that say they helped, and I have no idea if they changed their diet, or if they had hormonal and problems, or they had nutritional deficiencies or not. But um, at the end of the day, it's always better to do a broad, holistic approach. Like I said, changing the diet, no extreme diets, and not too much fasting. Fasting is depleting unless you're very overweight, and no extreme diet in one way or the other, like I mentioned, and taking some nutritional supplementation, whole food based. And then you can take, on top of that, you can take the hair tea, which we just introduced on Hermentis, and we can take the hair tonic, which we just introduced as well. So all three of these, you'll get the best results. That's the what we call holistic treatment. Everybody likes the sound of holistic treatments, but unfortunately, our mind is always looking for the quick cure and the one supplement. Let's take some selenium. Let's tie some zinc. Let's try this. They're always looking for a little pill to solve their problem, when it could have just been digestion the whole time, and they weren't absorbing the food, and they're not or it could have been low quality supplements they're not absorbing. Could have been their hot water, their hard water in their house, could have been their shampoo. So that's why I think I'm successful, is because I just look at every possibility and try to change and to refine a person's lifestyle, their diet, and their supplementation. And then on top of that, I provide the herbal remedies. And this gives me a very high success rate. And that's the way you should treat yourself as well. So I hope that helped inspire you, ladies, to keep your hair growing, get away from extreme diets, too much fasting, and take your supplements, and at least evaluate your hormonal imbalance to see that that's not part of the factor. Thank you very much, and I wish you the best of health and happiness and plenty of hair. Thank you.